What is going on? It's the 1st of May 2022. My name is Dan Fitz, the Street Preacher. Now these sermons usually go to my private coaching community, but given where the world is at right now, where most people are at, and I figured I'd share these to the world, to you, hopefully, if you're watching this. Now, brief history of me: I have not lived the perfect life. I am not the perfect man. But I have lived a lot in 35 years. And you can make life very complicated, or you can make it very simple. Many things are complicated in life, but many things are simple. So I want to teach to you today a basic philosophy about love and fear. Now, I've coached thousands of people, mainly men, mainly online the last 2 years, but you would not believe some of the environments that I've been in, from prison, coaching people. I've been in boardrooms, I've been in schools, been in workplaces. And most men, in fact all men, myself included, we operate from two basic systems: love or fear. And most men don't like to talk about love. Most men don't like to even entertain the idea of what love is. I get that, it's not very masculine. But we also don't like to talk about fear. We also don't like to entertain fear. Now, not entertaining it and being ruled by it are two very different things. What do I mean by that? So, let's say someone approached me about having more confidence in talking to women, and they do 8 weeks of training, of coaching. Now, the single outcome I would be looking for would be if I was sitting in a cafe with this man and we sat there. I mean, you can't find the one. You can't find a wife based on just looking at people or reading a Tinder profile or really anything, unless you get to know someone. It takes time. But to get to know someone, generally you just need to be attracted to them or be interested in them. So if you're sitting in a cafe, there's a good chance you're going to see a woman that you're attracted to eventually. Or for understanding's sake, you could just talk to anyone. This is something that I practiced a long time ago, not to get laid or not to get numbers or anything like that, but simply just to get used to talking to women. Or also many things. If you're afraid of something, do it a lot, you generally find yourself not afraid or less afraid. Now with men, I'm not afraid of anything. Okay, go talk to her. I don't want to. Why? You're interested in her, she's attractive, you want to prove a point, there you go. Oh, it's not the right time, or I don't feel like it, or what if she says something? Yeah. Fear of rejection, fear of loss, fear of looking stupid, fear of, whatever. And these emotions, these two basic emotions, rule our lives. Now, there's nothing wrong with being ruled by love. There's nothing wrong with being influenced by love to do what you want with your job, with your life, who you are, how you look. But fear, on the other hand, it leads to negative emotions. Hate and anger are a byproduct of fear. I think you learn that in Star Wars. Hate leads to anger, and fear leads to hate. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate. And hate is a very dark place to be. You may hate broccoli, you may hate grocery shopping, you may hate listening to me, but it's not a good place to live. Anger destroys home lives. Anger destroys any minute that you're angry, you're not happy. And anger and hate will generally destroy everything that we love. I'm not talking about your enemies, I'm not talking about opponents in the gym or in a video game. I'm not even talking about in business. It will simply destroy you and everything that you love, because the people that you love generally spend the most time with you. The choices and the actions that you take, they're generally not the best in regards to getting the outcome that you want. Do you want to be happy? Do you want abundance of good things? Do you want to be surrounded by good people? And so on. Anger and hate are not going to lead you there, neither is fear. But to overcome this simple lesson, this simple concept, this simple way we're wired as people, you have to accept that. To understand it, you have to accept it. I'm not afraid of anything. Go fight that guy over there. I don't want to. Why? Afraid you get your ass kicked? That's what it comes down to. I mean, it's a very humbling way of looking at things, but it's a very simple concept. Now, we can talk about picking up chicks and winning fights and making money and all these things that are considered cool and masculine and whatnot. But what do you love? What do you love in life? I'm not talking about television and beer and 3-day weekends. Now, I understand the concept. I understand the pleasure that we get from those things, or at least once upon a time I did. And when I wasn't operating out of either love or fear, at least consciously, when I had no idea about what I wanted except doing less, feeling good, and I guess looking cool or being liked or whatever it is that influences us on social media and things like that. When I used to work in gyms many years ago, some girls that I used to train would tell me that they would take a photo in the gym, and if it didn't get like 10 likes in 10 minutes, they would take it down because they were afraid of looking unpopular, or they were afraid that if the picture didn't get X amount of likes, they wouldn't feel good. And by the challenges and problems a human being has to face, and given that was a controlling factor for them, it's not a very good place to be. That's fear, not love. I love myself enough that I don't care if this photo gets likes. I love myself enough I don't even need to take this photo because I don't care what people think. Or maybe you do have a fitness business like I used to, and I love myself enough, my business and the people that I work with, that this photo is what I want to post, this will inspire them, and I don't care if people like it. And I'll leave you with a gift, a challenge even. This is, of course, if you want to. Do you want to live a better life? Do you want to be happier? Do you want to love more? Do you want more money, etc.? This will help you. I want you to write 3 things in 2 separate columns: love and fear. And they can be anything. Maybe it's your wife, maybe it's your job, maybe it's your car or your motorcycle. And then 3 things that you fear. Or at least that you wouldn't tell people about, because as a man, you're not afraid of anything, are you? Are you, mate? I know this because even the toughest, most masculine, strong men that I've worked with, my gift as a coach, as a speaker, as someone who wants to help people, men tell me the truth. Most people tell me the truth relatively quickly and open up to me. And by seeing their truth, by seeing what they love and also what they fear, most men are in tears eventually, because they've lived 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years being too afraid to say what they need to say, being too afraid to do what they need to do. Even if they've lost everything or will lose everything, the fear consumes them so much that they'd rather just let it ride. I'm telling you, or in fact I highly suggest to you, I'm not going to tell you to do anything. We seem to be in a world where that choice of choosing seems to be disappearing relatively quickly. But if you make decisions out of love and not fear, you'll make better decisions, and you'll make your own decisions. You'll stand up for what's right, you'll do what's right, and you'll influence your world around you. Your environment will be a product of you, not the other way around. If you're a product of your environment, it's because you live in fear. If your environment is a product of you, it's because you operate in a place of love. What are these things that you fear? Maybe it's your neighbor, maybe it's your boss, maybe it's losing your job, maybe it's being broke, maybe it's dying. I mean, what are these fears? Three, just three. Things you love, things you fear. Now, which ones could you live without? Look at these things that you love, the three things that you chose. I want you to pause this, if you're actually doing this, of course. I want you to pause this, and I want you to do that part now. Welcome back if you did pause it. So, if you look at that column of the things you love, wife, kids, cat, whatever, would you want to lose any of those things? Probably not. And take a wild guess and say probably not. Now let's take a look at the things in that fear column. Three things, whatever they are. Would you prefer to face the adversity, the pain, the challenge of stepping into those fears? If it's afraid of getting fired from that fucking job that you hate, that pays fuck all, why don't you do a course in business? Why don't you pursue something you love? Why don't you find another job, etc.? The infinite possibilities that will stop you from doing something that you hate. If you hate how your friends put you down and make fun of you and never support you, why don't you find some new friends? Or if you hate that all your friends are drunk losers that do nothing with their life, why don't you find some new friends? Because you look at that question and yeah, it makes sense, but you're afraid that what if you find people that live at a higher standard and then you, God forbid, have to live at a higher standard? What if you leave that job and God forbid you have to go 2 weeks without a paycheck until you find your dream job or what you want to do, or at the very least start on the path of where you want to go? Because I went through all these things myself. Believe it or not, going from where I was to where I am now, my friends have changed. Not all of them. But when I was sitting in a shitty backyard shed with some of my friends at the time in Melbourne, and I said, I want to be a trainer, I want to get into fitness, I want to help people. And as they were drinking beers and God knows what else, they laughed at me and they did not support me. It was the best thing I ever did. When I left being a mechanic or barely being able to hold down a job because my drinking, my gambling, my crazy behavior, which was coming from doing the things that I hated, there was fear around, who am I to teach anyone about anything? Who am I to have my own business? Who am I to do these? Fear. But I love the idea of what I saw in my mind enough to pursue it. I love the idea of being around successful, happy people that loved me and supported me and held me to a higher standard. That's it. Because as we approach challenging times as a world, as a country, especially my country, as people, the age-old saying, strong men create good times create weak men. I truly believe we're past that, and the weak men create hard times. That's where we are. And hard times create strong men again. So instead of being afraid about where we are in this cycle, in this timeline, what's happening with the world, why don't you love yourself and the people around you and your life in your environment enough to step out of fear and into love. That's it. I'm Dan Fitz, Street Preacher. I hope this information has served you well. Hope this lesson changes everything for you in life, because if you truly adopt it, at the very least, write down 6 fucking things. 3 that you love, 3 that you're afraid of. Do you want to lose any of those things that you love? Probably not. So why don't you look at that fear column and start tackling these challenges, these fears. Your life will never be the same again. I never used to be brave. I never used to be confident. I didn't used to be who I am now. But you do this enough, you speak to a random girl enough, you start a business or a job or change something, anything enough, you no longer live in fear. What once seemed unthinkable, scary to you, just what you do. You'll have to take my word for it on that one if you haven't lived that way before. I still feel fear sometimes. But when I do, I don't want to lose the things that I love. I don't want to be consumed by it. I don't want to let it go on that trail from fear to anger to hate. I mean, you can still come back from that place, but get yourself in check, build a life, have people around you that only operate in love. It's not easy, but neither is the alternative. This way will give you everything you want. The other one will destroy and take away everything that you love or once loved. Unfortunately, most men have to figure out that the hard way.